Right, greetings Year 12. We are moving on from the academic part of the course. So you've given me your analysis questions. No, it was an explain question from the big issue, and I will go and mark that as best I can for you, and I'll provide with you feedback, and that will be that. So, what we can do now is we can really work on with the NEA, the non-exam assessment, or in other words, coursework. This is worth 30% of your course, so I'm going to give you the brief today. I'm going to show you the document, and you can read through it at your leisure. You read through it, I'm going to give you the whole thing, but I'm going to direct you towards some stuff because I think, especially with the way things have gone, then we might want to have a look at certain briefs rather than others. So you're on the OCR board, and this is meant to be given you sometime from March, but the point is we've got our course going up until now, so it's only worth giving to you when you need it. And we are going to have this assessed next year, and if things go a bit pear-shaped with the old COVID-19 situation, then coursework and having exams next year could be a thing. So having good coursework is going to be really important, because you might end up using that coursework grade as something to help us assess you instead of having an exam. But I think you're going to have exams. I do think you're going to have exams, but this, more than ever, is super important to making sure you ensure a good grade. As I said before, this is worth 30% of your course. And I would argue that if you do what me and Mr. Starkey asked you to do with the assets that we have in our department, it's basically worth 40% of your course. It's a really useful hedge against the exam. Exams be tough, we be awesome at coursework, and if you apply yourself, then you will be absolutely fine going forward. Right, so the brief has 4 separate briefs on there, and it asks you in the instructions to choose one brief and do not reproduce any existing media products. It has to be entirely original, what you're asked to do. So that means no found imagery either. The use of sort of icons, maybe if you had a product, then that's fine, but it really must not be anything other than your own work, all right, from the ground up, which is difficult in its own way, but actually gets you to use a lot of different media skills. Group productions are not allowed. Others may act in or appear in the production, and or may operate lighting, sound, recording, or other equipment under your direction. So you could, if you were doing movie and image stuff, never share the footage with anyone else, but you can all work on each other's productions, so that I help you, you help me, I'll help the other person, they'll help them, and that's how it will work. Okay, so no shared production pieces, no shared photography, because otherwise that would be considered plagiarism. The other thing there is obviously the use of original footage and images. Like I said before, it must all be original stuff. Okay, now there is a mark out of 60 that they're going to go and give you for this. We assess it, me and Mr. Starkey assess it, and then we give them the grade. So it's not like it just goes off to the examiner. We know you, we know the efforts you went to go and make things, so that will be rewarded in what you produce. Obviously you get marks for output and product, not just, oh, didn't they try hard, but at the same time we'll know when something has had a lot of skill put into it to make it happen. Anyway, so it's a 20-page document, a PDF that I am going to give you attached to your Show My Homework, but you can have a read through that, but I'm going to sort of run you through the best bits for what I think is the best production piece, the best brief to do, given the situation. And actually historically we've always smashed it with this, and right now it's just about getting some grades out of a sticky situation. Okay, I'm going to cut straight to the chase, and we're going to have a look at brief 3, which is magazines and online. As you'll see from the other briefs that are there, and I do suggest you go and maybe stop this right now and go and read the document that I have given you. There's those 4 briefs. You've got TV and online, magazines and online, radio and online, and another one that's moving image. But the point being with this is that Magazines is the best one by far. Magazines and online is the best one by far because of the individual production nature of it. Let me be quite clear that this is the most achievable one, especially if you haven't had practice doing moving image stuff before. You don't want to start spending your A-level chips on it just because you fancy it, because the chances are that you need to make mistakes in that language of film before you get to your A-level, otherwise you get caned. So we're going to go and do magazines and online for most of you, and I'm going to if any of you really want to do radio is something you can kind of handle on your own. Also, I'm a bit concerned about our ability, given all the social distancing and when we'll go back to school, as to when we'll be able to teach you the practical skills that you need. So we're going to have to, you know, the less moving image group stuff that we do, because of like social distancing, even getting subjects might be a bit of an issue. Then we're going to kind of play it safe this year. But you will be therefore asked to do this one, which is the magazine and online brief as a default, unless you've got some serious chops elsewhere that you want to bring to our attention. Now let's have a look at the brief. Requirements for the brief. You work for an independent media production company. You have been given the task of producing one front cover and the contents page of the first 2 editions of a new current affairs magazine that is being launched by Dennis. That's Dennis Publishing, not just a guy called Dennis. And 2 pages for the working website for the magazine. Right, okay, contents pages can be either single or double page spread. Single would be easier. Double page spread could be something that could work really well if you've got a good design technique that you want to go and use, like a device. That could be good, but we can talk about that nearer the time. But all in all, single page deal is fine for most people. The web pages must promote the new magazine to its target audience and enable fans to interact with the content. Right. It's got to target its audience and enable them to interact. So we need to think about how they're going to do that. Chances are they're going to do that through social media, right? And so we're going to have some social in there. And I'm going to show you a map later of what this looks like. Statement of intent, right? Summary of brief requirements. So you need to do a statement of intent. That's not a practical production piece, but it is a document that accompanies the things that you make, those 2 magazine covers, 2 content pages, and the website. So you're being asked to produce the current affairs magazine covers and contents pages, and it says 2 or 3 pages there, but that depends on whether it's a double page spread or not. The magazine distribution method. Content must be suitable for retail. Okay, so a magazine that's going to be sold in the shops. A number of web pages, 1 home page and 1 linked page. So that will be something that will have maybe a bar of hyperlinks across the top, different sections of the newspaper, which is kind of what this is. It's a current affairs magazine. It's going to have those kind of hard news stories in there at some level, and it's going to have all of those hyperlinks at the top taking you to different sections, and then one of those sections you'll be able to click through and there'll be another article underneath it. That's really how it's going to go and look. And then our cross-media production target audience, this is absolutely critical, is a socially conscious 16 to 25 middle to upmarket demographic. Somehow they believe that 16 to 25 year olds are going to buy a retail print magazine. What jokes. But the point is, we are going to produce that print magazine, but we are going to have a very careful eye on what they're offering online, because that's really where the 16 to 25 year olds are. What with, say, Instagram or Snap, that's where they be. So what we will do is we'll use the right media language that would still engage those audiences. Maybe we'll be looking at things like our Lexis, we'll be looking at sort of fashions and the choice of stories and the news agenda, and then when it comes to imagery, we'll be looking at, you know, young people and issues that affect young people. So that's where this is going. You have to consistently think about who the target audience is. But the good thing is it's you and people like you, socially conscious, middle to up market. There you are with your nice middle class school. There's Alexandra Park, backing onto the golf course. So you're doing all right. Yeah, you think about this. This could be difficult for some kids who maybe we're in a more rural area in Scotland, or a more urban area where there is much less of that kind of middle or up market to come by. So we're in good hands with this one, really. There must be a clear sense of branding across the two elements of the cross-media production. In short, boys and girls, you know what I've said before now about branding and logos and slogans and colour palettes. Make it tight. Whatever you're going to go and produce, you are going to make it look tight across the piece. It's going to have a shared identity, a shared set of icons, a shared set of maybe typefaces that's going to make it look like your particular brand. Right, let's have a look at the production detail. This is a set of bullet points, and these are a very important set of bullet points, because if you don't have them, you will get smashed on the mark scheme. That just seems to be the way that it works. Right, so the production details of the magazine covers and the contents page must include, as a minimum, at least 4 different main images using original photography across the covers and contents page. Right, at least 4 main images. That's fine. You will find you will be using more, probably, to certainly go against the cell lines that are on the contents page. They very often have a spread of what's in the book from the contents page, and you'll need more than 4. I would say you're going to be at least 4 to... Actually, you're probably going to be looking about somewhere between 10 and 20 images that you need, right? Editing of magazine covers and contents pages, including photography, text, graphics, typography and layout. What else would you do? Written text, including elements such as the masthead, main cover lines, cell lines, headlines, captions, subtitles and copy, like the conventional aspects of a magazine. All right, and we know what those are, because very often those are things that are kind of shared with newspapers. We're not making newspapers, we're making much more visual magazines, but you know what these things are. Barcode, date, edition and price information on the front cover. So it's really important, because these aren't posters, these are front covers that are designed to be sold. So you must have those details on there. Now, the next thing that we're looking for is a different use of mise-en-scène for each cover. So a visually distinctive, different backgrounds, different lighting, different setup, really, for each of your front cover images. And so that you're not just sort of doing the same thing twice. And they will do that. You will have the same... house style. You will have the same maybe fonts and layouts to some extent, but you'll be moving with a different image and something else to grab the audience with, so you need that variation. Now this is where it gets a bit artificial. Representations of at least 2 different social groups, e.g. defined by age, gender, race and ethnicity, and even sexuality has been added this year. So the idea is what we're going to represent some stereotypes or some countertypes of gay people or black people or women or men, and we're going to be looking to really sort of hit the nail on the head with that, so we've got something to talk about in our statement of intent, which is this accompanying document. A call to action pointing readers to the online website, very important, normally covered on the contents page, and there is an interplay between the website and the print product. The production of the web pages must include an original audio or audio-visual content appropriate to the online website. So even though we're creating magazines, right, and we're doing online web pages, there is going to be an video bit for you where you're going to go and make a little 30-second to say 1 minute 30 clip that's going to in some way support one of your stories in this current affairs magazine. But we will teach you to do that as best we can near the time. There's some sort of nice tricks that we can use, and we can definitely teach you how to do that. A minimum of 2 original images with at least 1 different original image on each of the 2 pages. These images must be different from those produced for the magazine. Okay. You are going to create, like I said, between 10 and 20 images, and most of those are going to be on the website. So that's where we're going with it. This 2 original images, I don't know a website that just uses 2 original images, even for these sort of contemporary current affairs magazines. Some magazines, like music magazines or even fashion magazines, are much more image-led, but still, you're all going to need more than 2. Next one, appropriate conventions of website design, including an original title and logo and a menu bar. Very easy to do. What we'll do is we'll get our branding and we'll have it on the magazines, and we'll have a shared set of assets for yourself, and you'll be like, this is my masthead. It's going to be called, I don't know, Life Now magazine or whatever it is, and Life Now will always look the same, and we'll save it as a transparent PNG file, and then you can sort of use that same asset. There's no excuse in this for any of you to have branding that's out of whack between your different products. You're going to have text introducing the main features of the magazine, so there might be some kind of blurb there at the bottom. I'll get into that another time. Working links from the home page to the other page. Yeah, otherwise how would you get there? And a range of appropriate media language techniques, typography, image, font, backgrounds, logos, as appropriate to the purpose of the magazine. Basically, make it look like a proper website, make the magazine look like a proper magazine, and make sure that they look like each other, because then you'll have a tight branding. So let's have a look at how this sort of brief panned out in years previously. Okay, so here's a map of what you will create. This is for a fashion magazine from a couple of years ago. It should also be added that there will be this statement of intent, which is this sort of small Word document, no more than 500 words. It will need to be done. And a little bit of like research, but honestly it won't be really hard at all. I'll give you some set questions, you do it, you hand it in. The actual statement of intent and the research don't get assessed themselves, but if you don't have them, you get smashed on the mark scheme. So that's why you're going to go and do them. But in terms of what they're asking you to produce in terms of coursework, it looks like this. So you can see you've got Paradox magazine here, right? And we've got our two front covers. And with this, you've got a very consistent house style across both of them, with that kind of sharp, thin, with the 4 as a paradox, kind of slashy, kind of graffiti, kind of A in the middle, again, for this urban teen fashion thing they were going for. So a really strong sense of branding that's kept across the two. It's also got a nice use of house style, because you've got this kind of accent red with the white and the black, or the white with the cream and the black that you have on the first front cover. Like it's tight looking, it's tight across the two, and you can see that front cover 1 matches front cover 2 in terms of its mise-en-scène and its representation it's making, because it's taking this issue or story and asking the audience to go into the book. So promising them information on it, making them desire that information so that they'll buy it, then leading them from the front cover that interested them to the contents page where it is, and then into the story, but we don't have to produce the story. You can see the same thing there with the second page. Again, a different mise-en-scène, that kind of black, dark look, as opposed to the more softer look of the first front cover, but tight. You know it's tight from there. Front cover 2 matches front cover, front cover 2 matches contents page 2. Front cover 1 matches contents page 1. Then you have to go and produce the web homepage, and you can see even then, hopefully, if you just maximize your video, that Paradox has that same branding across the piece. It's got that all the conventions that you need. You see it's got a lot of images there as well, and with that you've got these headlines and these stand first with these images, all the conventions that we would find on a website, with all these topic headers there for the hyperlinks. Then on there you're going to have your linked web page, your second page. It's probably going to be a hyperlink there at the top, and on that linked web page people tend to put the video there, this 3 to 90 second audio visual that goes there. They're also asking for this interaction that will allow the target audience of 16 to 29-year-olds to get involved with the magazine. You're going to have some kind of linked social, so people often set up some kind of Instagram and set up like half a dozen stories for their mates to go and comment on, to get a sense of, look, we would have a social on our website, and that social would link out to things like Insta and Snap, but at the same time Insta is trying to get people back towards the website, and maybe even towards a subscription for the smart 16 to 25-year-olds. Anyway, so that's how it looks visually. So you've got the magazine cover and contents page. You've got 2 of those. Then you've got the web page and its linked web page. And we cannot avoid the audiovisual product. So it's almost like having basically 7 products, but we must deal with that link social as well. Right, let's have a look at the assessment objectives, which are long and generic and lame and boring. But let's put it into this. It goes excellent, good, adequate. And you don't want to be anywhere near adequate, right? There's no excuses for it. Let's have a look at the headlines of this, of where we are going. So, a sophisticated, excellent use of a wide range of appropriate media language techniques that delivers an accomplished demonstration of knowledge and understanding of the distinctive media language of the media form, including, right, okay, a highly developed use of codes and conventions that communicates meaning that is highly appropriate. Basically, do what they do in terms of visual media language, right? And it communicates to its audience in the way they're meant to. A highly appropriate use of content and appeal for audience, which creates sophisticated meaning. Yes, basically, make sure that it informs intelligently, say if we're doing our current affairs magazine. Whatever you choose to do and how you choose to do it, make sure it fits the brief for the audience. But that's inherent in the media language that you put into it. A sophisticated construction of representations, see they're using the word construction there, which creates well-selected and high-developed insights into the portrayal of events, issues, individuals and social groups. Well, definitely social groups, because they're making you have 2 different social groups in it for a start. So you're going to be like, oh, look, here's a countertype of a homosexual male as strong and masculine, or something like that. Do you see what I mean? It's really, you're going to get those values and types, and then you're going to make some values and types yourself and say, look what I have represented. Highly developed application of knowledge and understanding of the media industry. So with that, you're going to have to deal with putting in the industrial parts, things like, I know why I need to have an industrial logo. I know why I have to have my barcode in there. I know that I have to have my consistent house style and branding across my website and my print magazine, because I am trying to create a consistent brand that an audience can buy into. Right? So you're aware of the money, you're aware of the need for the money and how they reach the audience for the money. And that's what we're going to make sure that we do. And then finally, it's going to have an excellent realization of the chosen brief that addresses all the requirements of the brief and includes all the elements of production detail. Now, let's just show you how this looks at the bottom of the second mark band there, level 4. You see how this drops you off if you don't include stuff. A good realization of the chosen brief that addresses all requirements of the brief, and if you look even lower than that, it says nearly all requirements of the brief and includes almost all elements of the production detail. Yeah, so you see how it starts to degrade there. If you miss stuff off the production details, it forces you into a lower and lower mark band. So include all the things we ask you to include, and one of those things you'll need to do in the next week or so is to start to spot, right, what am I going to make sure I include in my design. I'll show you this bit because the last bit was essentially 25 marks times 2 out of the 60, making so 50 out of the 60. This is the other 10 marks. This is the bit about the convergent digital nature of the product. So basically making sure that your website works with your magazine, or your radio show works with your website, or whatever it may be, but that play between the two. And it says here it is excellent, good, adequate, or limited application. But I think the wording there at the top mark band is quite important, and that it says a sophisticated and coherent links between the 2 cross-media products that demonstrate a highly developed awareness of how to use digital convergence to create meaning and engage an intended audience. Well, basically make them look the same. Yeah, make them look the same across both. Make them look tight across both in terms of and also the language you use, maybe on the cell lines might match that you have in the video or in the website. That's to say that you don't want to sort of be, let's say, more formal for your current affairs magazine, and then when you get to your video, then it becomes ghetto street talk. You know what I mean? Like, all right, if they're giving some sort of interview to camera and they are Joe Bloggs doing the pops, then that's fine. But the point is, suddenly you want to keep that professional tone across both, for example. But most of the time, this is going to be about visuals, house style, and the Lexis that you're using. The other thing there is the sophisticated use of techniques to create a highly developed sense of branding across the two cross-media products. Okay, that's the visual stuff. Yeah, that's definitely the visual stuff. And that it's somehow going to give highly appropriate, sustained and insightful meaning for the intended target audience. Yeah, we have to use these. You're glad you just have to make it. So the idea is, if you have the right stuff on the page and it looks tight and it looks like other current affairs magazines or whatever it is we get choosing you to make, then it's going to deliver that intended reading for the target audience. So make it look right, make it look pro, and it will read pro. Well, that was just me talking for 25 minutes, so I'm going to stop now. But there's quite a lot to take on board. If there was one thing I would direct you to is having a look again at that little map I made you of what you're going to go and create. So we're going to focus the next part of this scheme of work on the current affairs magazines and what makes them in terms of conventions, but also I'm going to try and teach you some of the practical skills that we can try and master in preparation for hitting the coursework at some point, with any luck, later this academic year.